whose voices challenge power and speak for justice. Today, we turn to a troubling and unresolved case: the disappearance of Ugandan political activist Sam Mugumya. Once imprisoned in the Democratic Republic of Congo for 8 years, he was released on October 2022, only to vanish again recently. His latest disappearance has stoked concerns about political repression, enforced disappearance, and the state of civic space in Uganda. Joining us this morning is Byamugisha Moses, who is a Ugandan lawyer, author, a politician, and longtime friend of Sam Mugumya. He's here to help us piece together Sam's story, the legal red flags, and the broader implications for human rights in the region. Byamugisha, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm very fine, and I'm very happy to be hosted on Channel Africa.
Well, it's our pleasure, and we appreciate you making time for us. Let's talk about Sam Mugumya's personal life story. As a friend, you know him. What can we know about him that you can share with us?
So, listeners and viewers may want to know, like you introduced me, I'm a friend to Sam Mugumya for over 24 years now in our political activism. And we have together had been members of the Opposition Forum for Democratic Change, which until recently was the largest political formation challenging the Museveni dictatorship here in Uganda. And throughout that journey of over 24 years, we have gone through a lot, including arrests, imprisonment, harassment by police, and all sorts of things. And like you introduced earlier, partly it is the reason why Mugumya Sam had to escape the country, to flee to Congo, where he was unfortunately arrested and spent in jail in Ndoro military prison 8 years. And when he was released, he was hosted by friends actually down there in Southern Africa since the time he left Ndoro military prison over 2 years ago. But Sam is the only child at home with an elderly mother who is now very weak and ailing. And so, although Sam was free down there in Southern Africa, he could not be at peace. He said, "Let me go back home and be taking care of my mother." So about a month ago, he decided to return to Uganda. And when he returned to Uganda, he also expressed interest in running for political office in our home district, Rukunjiri, which is in southern part of Uganda. And when he had begun his campaigns, he was disappeared. The story about his disappearance, about 2 days before he disappeared, we had been together in western Uganda, in a town, in a city called Mbarara City, in southwestern Uganda. We had been together there coordinating some activities regarding his candidature for member of parliament. And when I traveled back to Kampala also to mobilize a few logistics, and I had left him behind, I only got the news that he had been arrested. Now, since he disappeared, the government has vehemently denied arresting him. But the eyewitnesses who were there during the arrest and the host who was hosting him throughout that period when he was in Mbarara, he was clearly picked by people who were dressed in uniform like that of government agencies. The manner and style in which he was arrested and the vehicles they were using are similar to what we have been hearing other opposition activists in Uganda going through. So it's been a month now. We have not heard from him. All we hear are rumors that he could be in one of Uganda's detention centers, but none of us has seen him. Nonetheless, we have gone to court and petitioned the court for his release. Courts have on 2 occasions ordered the state and anyone else who might be having him to release him. Unfortunately, nobody has released him or produced him in court. We made an application for habeas corpus. Court ordered that his body should be produced, dead or alive, but still we have not seen him. But nonetheless, we continue the fight and we continue the call to ensure that we secure his freedom.
Moses, this is Peter Ndoro. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're going to speak a lot more about the situation in Uganda, but I think given his history and events that also played out in the DRC, I'm going to just ask one more question about that time there. During his years in captivity in the DRC, was he ever brought to trial or formally charged? And if not, what was ever how did the DRC authorities justify his detention?
Thank you very much. So he was actually formally charged. When he was arrested in eastern Congo, and he was transferred first to Beni and then eventually to Kinshasa, and he was detained in military prison. But while at Ndoro, he went through trial, and he was charged for having links with the rebel groups operating in eastern Congo. Rebel groups like the M23, the ADFs, the what. And it may be important to note that Sam was arrested with 4 other young Ugandans. So far, he's the only one who has served his sentence free of 4 or 5 years. Of 8 years. So they were all charged and they were sentenced to various years. His was 8 years, but there are others serving 10, 12, 15 years, and they are still detained there in Congo. So he served his sentence and he was released.
What can you tell us, Moses, about the kind of attention his detention there in the Democratic Republic of Congo received, and what happened then when he was released in October of 2022?
So when he was arrested, we saw the regime here in Kampala very excited. They made an announcement how the government of Congo had arrested him, and it caused the public uproar. We held various protests across the country, trying to secure his release now. His release then. We also tried to petition the government here to intervene and offer him consular services, but it appeared clearly that the regime in Kampala decided to connive with the regime in Kinshasa to detain him there. Remember that he had shortly before he escaped to Congo, he had been charged with the treason. Treason here in Uganda is an offense that attracts a life or death sentence. So he had been charged with treason in Uganda and he decided to escape. So when he was arrested in Congo and detained there, the regime here was excited. I think they felt like they have survived the Mugumya problem. But we kept pushing throughout the years he was in detention. We kept petitioning the DRC embassy here in Kampala, writing protest letters to the international human rights organizations, petitioning the government of Uganda, petitioning security agencies back here in Uganda, and also trying to link up to the government in Kinshasa to ensure that he and other colleagues can be able to get justice.
As a lawyer, do you think the legal system in your country can assist Sam and assist your efforts?
Unfortunately, Uganda is under a capture. Uganda is under a state capture, an effective state capture, because between you and me, like I've told you, we know for sure that Mugumya Sam was arrested by state agencies. He was arrested by the security of Uganda. But the courts of Uganda, who are the arbiter and who are the guarantors of justice, have on two separate occasions ordered for his release, but those orders were not respected. But also, the judiciary now sits back. You are a judiciary, you make your orders, they are not respected, and then you sit back, you don't do anything else. We feel that the judiciary also here is under capture. It is not in a position to be able to offer us the necessary justice. Not only for Mugumya Sam, we have very many activists that the state arrested and charged in the military courts. We petitioned the Supreme Court of Uganda, and the Supreme Court ordered that those activists, the trial for civilians in military courts should stop, and that they should be tried in civilian courts or released. But up to now, those activists, over 40 of them, they have not been released. Instead, what the government is doing is to do backdoor new legislation process through parliament to enact laws that enable it to try these guys in military courts again. And the judiciary can't do much. So the 40 years we have had under Mr. Museveni have led to a deep state capture in Uganda, that the judiciary and all the people serving government find themselves on a survival cliff, both as individuals and as institutions that they serve in. That whoever is serving in government, either under judiciary or executive or parliament, is surviving, considers himself as a survivor, that they cannot do much. Even when they order anything, the state can decide to refuse. So we are here, but yes, this is our country. We cannot give up. We shall keep pushing and see what we are able to achieve.
Why is Kampala so fearful of Sam? Why do they consider him such a threat?
Myself and Sam Mugumya were for very many years serving under the leadership of Dr. Kizza Besigye, and Kizza Besigye is a former government minister turned opposition leader, 4-time presidential contender, and not just a presidential, not just a participant as a presidential candidate, but a formidable candidate who actually we believe has won over 2 times against Mr. Museveni, but Museveni simply rigs him. Dr. Besigye is a very popular opposition politician here in Kampala, and as you know, he is right now detained in the maximum prison, Ruzera maximum prison, answering charges that can attract death. So the government is fearful of Dr. Besigye in the first place, but also fearful of some of the people that Dr. Besigye have closely works with. And they know Mugumya Sam. He's at a personal level, Mugumya Sam is a very formidable activist, very vocal, very versatile, intelligent, and also he has a big following in public. He's not loved just from the district or region where he comes from, but he's loved across the country. So the people, the state, especially the first son here in Kampala, is very concerned about such young people whom he considers might be a stumbling block to the Museveni Rice presidency project that involves his son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, taking over.
These continuous denials, Moses, around Sam's disappearance, his lawyers issued or filed an application with the High Court, and the response of Lieutenant Colonel Edgar Musasizi from the Defense Ministry was that this was an attempt to tarnish the image of the UPDF, or the Uganda People's Defense Forces, instead of addressing where Sam is. Also, another denial coming from the Uganda's police force, Kituma Rusoke, who's a spokesperson of that, saying that Mugumya is not in the detention centers. Do these denials sufficiently address the questions around where Sam Mugumya's is, his arrest and disappearance, as far as his supporters and the general public of Uganda see it?
The good news is that the general public of Uganda is very familiar with the art with which the state here operates. Mugumya Sam is not the first activist that has been disappeared by the regime. Mugumya Sam is, there are over 50 other activists that have been arrested in the same manner. And by the way, over 17 who were arrested several years ago have since then not been seen. Some have been traced in various detention centers, but clearly there are those that have not been seen. A person like Chibarama, he was arrested, but he has never been seen. It is believed he was killed. At first, the government had accepted that they have him after a lot of pushing also, but eventually they denied and say, no, we don't know where he is. So Mugumya Sam is not the first person that has been disappeared. And so the public here in Kampala and all stakeholders are familiar with the government techniques and the machinations in denying arrest of opposition activists, only for them to appear in state hands or to be dumped after several months. There was even an incident of a senior lawyer who is based in South Africa, a Ugandan lawyer. He had returned here, he was returning here in Kampala to participate in the forthcoming general elections in 2026. And that gentleman was arrested at the airport. He disappeared. The state denied having him. They kept him for a full month and eventually deported him back to South Africa. And it is this gentleman who eventually narrated the whole story and told the public that, look, I was arrested at the airport by state agencies. I was kept at the airport for about 4 hours. And eventually I was told that we are going somewhere to record a statement. And I landed into a place in a dungeon where I spent 30 days without ever coming out. The only next day that I came out, I was being taken back to the airport, getting deported from my own country.
Yeah.
So the public here and all stakeholders are familiar with how government operates. They know for sure that the government, the state agencies here can mean to cause a disappearance of an activist, deny, and only perhaps accept only when it is in the convenience of the state.
So has there been a thorough search carried out then as far as the UPDF detention centers go, and throughout all of them? And if so, has that process been transparent?
Of all cases of disappearances that we have had here of opposition activists, the issue of searching, you see, in most times, such opposition activists, they are not detained in gazetted detention centers, not like in prisons or police cells. No. The way the state is operating here in Uganda is that for such activists, when they arrest you, they have their own separate cells where they detain these activists. Those cells are not gazetted. Those detention centers are not gazetted. It can be in some building somewhere in the slums of Kampala. It can be in some dungeon in one of the barracks. It can be in a safe house. There are places we call safe houses here. Those are premises that are used by the securities to detain and torture opposition activists. So they can detain you in places that are not known to the public. So even if we were to conduct a public search of detention centers, we would not be able to find him because they cannot detain him in gazetted places that we know of. Such cases, they usually detain them in safe houses, in secret places.
Moses, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I don't know if in 30 seconds, if you could just answer this. Are you fearful for your own safety and, dare I say, your own life as well as that of Sam?
Certainly, I'm very fearful for my own safety because, first of all, throughout the days Sam returned to Uganda, I was his close friend. We were moving together, and the state was monitoring him. But also, since his arrest, I have received some information indicating that they are also trailing me at my workplace, at the law firm where I sit. There have been some strangers coming to the law firm where I sit. One time they came there, they asked for me, but luckily I was away. So yes, we live under a very fearful situation. You can't be free to go in public places. You can't be free at home, but you have nowhere else to go. But I have said personally, I will not run into exile. I will remain here because if we all keep running, who is going to fight for our country? We are going to remain here and keep pushing as young people. As you can see on my T-shirt, I don't know whether my words are clear. We have an organization called the Young Ugandans Network. And this Young Ugandans Network is an organization through which, with colleagues, we are using to try and push back on government excesses and fight for our rights and demand for a better government free of corruption and an end to Museveni's kleptocracy.
Moses, we're going to have to leave it there. It really has been an honor to be able to speak to you and hear the story of Sam, but I guess, as you say, represents so many Ugandans in the state of Uganda at the moment. So thank you very much indeed for your bravery and talking to us about these important issues this morning.
Thank you, Sam.
That was Moses Byamugisha, who's a Ugandan lawyer, author and politician, and a friend of the disappeared Sam Mugumya. We've been speaking about.
Apologies there. I said Sam, it's Moses. Thank you. 8:30 Central African Time. Let's get news headlines. Here's Jolani Tulongwepe.
SABC News.